snarf, snarf.
Oh, I've never experienced such a love-hate relationship with a character. Hated him in the original series, wanted to drop him off a cliff, and then in the 2000 series, wanted him to drop into my arms.
Hello, Tom.
Hey, Dana, what is going on?
That was the delay. Are you all right?
Oh no, is there a delay? Oh no,
We'll see what happens. You doing okay?
doing pretty good. Let me know if there's more delays, like if I sound off or if I take a little too long to respond to your questions, because it's probably not me thinking, it's Zoom thinking for me.
Like, hello isn't a response you should have to think about. If it does, we'll have to talk.
Must act human. Must act human.
Cycling welcome through. to Assumed Humans Talking Toys.
We will cycle through and make sure we make all the correct responses.
Our loyal listeners, remember fast to recognize the signs of stroke on either Tom or I.
Yeah, call for help sometime tomorrow.
Have you got anything new?
I sure have. I'm not sure. As usual, I'm not quite sure what it is. I think I know what this one is.
Can't wait,
because I'm based on the size and the weight of the package, and depending on my guess, we'll see if I was cut out to be one of those carnies that will guess your weight. Step on up and guess your weight. Hey, I was right. All right, so this
nice. You're a carny.
I am the ultimate carny. I'll guess your weight, and you'll wait. If they guessed your weight, did you win a prize, or did they not give you a prize?
I think you had to give them a prize.
Thinking about it now, that's a little bit of a flawed game. What do they get for guessing your weight?
They get to keep the prizes. I think you get a prize if they are incorrect.
You should guess their weight. It's this guy.
Oh, nice! That was fast. That was
yeah. This actually came a few days ago. I was talking to Eric, and he said his came the very next day. He is great.
I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry for the people who are listening. This is Snout Spout, the Masterverse Snout Spout that was released sometime last week.
It looks like he had rhinoplasty, like he's got a bandage on his schnoz.
But it's kind of inappropriate. They needed to censor that for the kiddies.
Right.
You don't want that just waggling around and being inappropriate for the kid. So this is awesome. He looks great.
Yeah, he does look good. Now I'm gonna have to buy him.
And he's a beefy dude. So this, I didn't get the Origins version because I don't know. Snout Spout's always been a goofy, silly looking character.
Right. I said, he reminds me of the elephant from the Great Space Coaster.
Yes, exactly. And it was always just kind of silly. But this version of him, when the Four Horsemen were working on him, if they had done if they had gotten to do the rest of the 2000 X line that they had wanted, because apparently they sculpted everybody because they were huge fans of Fantasy Universe. So everyone was already sculpted and ready to go. They just needed to be cut for articulation, which they kind of already were. And they released a staction version because there were a few characters because the line ended before its time, and they wanted to get like kind of as many more out as they could before kind of all the funding dried up. So we got that staction line that had like Grizzlor and Tongue Lasher and a few other characters in it. But I remember
that Tongue Lasher looked great.
Yeah, Snout Spout was part of that line, and he looked great. And this kind of hard. This is a nice mashup between the original and that staction line. The way the head is designed is a lot more angular. It's a little more
right. And unlike Poacher, he has ears.
He got his ears. McFarlane wasn't going to mess this one up. He does come with like a little water spout effect part.
Right.
And he's a little bigger. He's a little bit beefier. I don't know if it justifies that price point that we got because this jumped up to like 30 something. He's still available. So if you're looking for a Snout Spout, go get him. I
want him to be like huge.
Yeah, I kind of
like what was his name? Tuscador, the other guy. Like I wanted that kind of.
It would have been nice if he was just a little. I think he's a little bigger than your average buck, but not big enough, and not not enough to justify that price in Heist. But what's really getting me about this artwork is we get snakes.
Yeah.
There's there are no snake men in the Masterverse line right now. Like right now, or we're even pretty good with Origins. They've got a pretty good amount of snake men in it, but we've never gotten one in Masterverse, and I want them in Masterverse. I don't.
Right. The
I don't
closest
know.
is the Snake Tila coming up.
Yes, yes, that is true. Oh, that looks so good. All those drops, all those He-Man Ninja Turtles uh reveals of the upcoming waves look amazing, and I want all of them. And if Walmart's attached to any of those in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to be very sad. So make me less sad. What'd you get? Did you get something fun?
I got, and I haven't had time to open it yet because I have to be able to enjoy it. But if you want to see, if everybody wants to see it, I'm sure they've had a chance to see it online. But I've got the Vamp.
Yay! That
And
is
Clutch
awesome.
looks awesome. He's ripped. They made Clutch ripped.
He's a big dude. I like that. Well, he was was he the mechanic?
He's the mechanic. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Because he comes in the Vamp. I just kind of presume. I do like that he looks a little bit unkept.
Right.
I
He's
watched
the one who would put motor oil in his hair. He's kind of a greaser type.
keeps it supple and shiny.
I love the, you were talking about the artwork and the thing, but they had the the Cobras had the little four-wheeler. I forget the name of it. It was the blue little quad runner, right?
Yeah.
And it's in the background, clearly.
Oh, nice.
I haven't seen a release of that yet. But the thing is, like, there's clearly a Cobra back there.
Yeah.
And Clutch is just like striking a pose.
It's like, what up? What's going on? This may have been a candid shot. We don't know what kind of relationship those guys have. This might be,
or if Cobra was photobombing him, like someone saw his Instagram account. And they're like, dude, there's a Cobra right behind you.
Well, what are you talking about? You wasn't there when I turned around. I don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
There's a smaller Cobra vehicle that's been teased that has a female rider. I wonder. I don't remember offhand if it is that vehicle, but
it might be it.
It does look pretty cool. I actually watched someone unboxing one of those. So cheap plug for Highly Articulated. Go check out his channel. It's awesome. It's got good stuff. He also talks about AWOC all the time, and I love it. But he did an unboxing of the Vamp, and he's going through the accessories. And Clutch has the helmet that came with one of the, I guess not the Grenadiers, one of like the generic grunts that came out. That helmet has the cool, like, kind of shark mouth design on either side of it, but if you hold it straight on, it looks like a Ninja Turtle head. And I refuse to believe that that's not intentional. And because of the way that I'm wired, I saw that, and now I want 4 Vamps because I want that helmet.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
It would probably be easier to just try and track down those helmets, but
yeah.
The easiest way to do that would just be to get him and throw the rest of it in the corner. I just want that helmet.
An easier way to do it is I'll just give you the helmet after I open.
That'll be 1 down, 3 to go. Because I can't help myself. But that is a good pickup. That is awesome.
So, Tom and loyal listeners, today I want to talk about a line that I'm surprised we haven't spoken about. And like you said, there were some toy lines that were incredibly short-lived and unfortunate. And you'd know what I want to talk about if you had sight beyond sight.
It's awesome.
So I break out my sword of omens only for special occasions.
What did it show you?
It said Tom wants to talk about the Thundercats.
I do. I so do. Thundercats are, if there is a Mount Rushmore of 80s collectibles, I gotta say, like, three of those faces would be Voltron, Masters of the Universe, Thundercats,
and G.I. Joe.
Sure, G.I. Joe. And Optimus Prime. So we got 5. We're gonna carve out a 5th face for Optimus Prime because he deserves it. But yeah, that is a amazing toy line. It's an amazing show. It's a staple of the 80s. No one mentions shows or properties without including Thundercats in that cluster.
Right, and it really was. So it was a little bit later, wasn't it? Like 85, 80. It was like mid 80s when the cartoon came out, right? And it ran for a couple of years till like I don't know, 3 or 4 years, right?
Yep.
And the toy line was short-lived. There weren't a lot of figures. There was what, maybe 20, 22 figures, if that.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I remember there being so much more than there actually was.
Yeah,
There's more than I remember there being, but as a total toy line, uh, not a whole heck of a lot. Although, no, you know what? I take it back.
not a lot of vehicles, two play
I
sets, right?
We had, yeah, so we had. All
You
right,
had
so
the Cat Slayer,
we'll get into like the, I guess, the initial offering. So you had the original
right? Yeah, yeah,
Thundercats. You had, yeah, it was the main cast. So you had like Lino and Tigra Panthera. I'm sorry, Panthero, Titara, Wily Cat, and then you had Mumra and the mutants. So you had Mumra,
right.
Slive, Monkey and Jackalman, Vultureman. I don't recall offhand how those were staggered out because I didn't own any until I got like the great aunt toy dump of of like 1987.
Right.
Um, but I remember, yeah, everyone watched the cartoon. I remember seeing the commercials for the characters, and the gimmick was kind of cool. Where you had the little gun you put in the back, and the eyes lit up because it was kind of like
Right.
pre light
Yep,
piping.
yep, yep, yep.
The pseudo snap on
I
armor
almost
gimmick.
forgot about the light up eyes. I
Yeah,
almost forgot about that.
it was a fun thing. I don't remember how the technology worked, and it was kind of funny that you had to essentially stick them up to get them to to light up. Give me your wallet. You'll get light up
Yeah.
eyes.
And
I don't want any trouble.
the thing about the Thundercats, I remember getting them, and they're so beefy, they're so big. And
Yes,
it
they
was
were larger than your average
finally
figure.
because when we had He-Man, he dwarfed everybody at the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
You had, the superpowers guys were smaller, much smaller than He-Man.
Hmm.
G.I. Joe, of course, was even smaller than them. So
Yeah.
it was hard to find that real fit.
Hmm.
But then when Thundercats came out, I was like, "Oh my god, this guy's even bigger than He-Man!" And
Yeah.
but they fit together, like the lore and the way, like the superpowers and He-Man didn't fit together
Hmm.
in their storyline.
Yeah.
But Thundercats, when they came out, was was a good match in regards to the mythos to
Yeah.
He-Man,
Yeah.
and they
They're.
were sizable enough where they could match a little too. So it
Mhm.
was a blessing because it was like finally an addendum to my Masters of the Universe.
Yeah. Their origins combined with the, yeah, the kind of the sword and sorcery of it all, the sword play. It made you could easily picture Lionel riding Battle Cat. It wasn't something completely out of the realm of mystery.
Right? It might be
You
a little weird though.
might be a little strange. Might be a little. It's that whole like Goofy and Pluto situation where you're like,
Right.
why do you own something that I'm clearly, we share a certain amount of traits that I'm not
Right.
comfortable with.
He's like, let me get on this unevolved cat.
Although, no, you know what? I take it back because Snow Meow existed in
That's true.
Thundercats,
That's
and
true.
I always wanted that to be a point of contention where they meet the what was it? Was it just like the snowman that they called him?
Yeah, the snowman of was it Hook Mountain?
Yeah,
That
I,
yeah.
I always kind of wanted them to meet up and they just immediately go at him and be like, "Let her go, let
Yeah.
our people
He
go."
was one of my favorite. He was one of my favorite figures.
Mhm.
He had that cool like blue thing. Like he just had a cool look, and it was different than the others.
Dude, I'm trying to remember offhand. Did Snow Meow get a figure in the original line? Because
No.
the Snowman did. I
Yeah.
think there may have been like a, because they went through the whole. There was the main line, and then a lot of lines had like those little miniature toys, like those little almost like candy toys
Right.
that
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I don't remember if Snow Meow got a little version in
I
those
don't know, but
releases. I could be
they didn't
mistaken.
do much. They did they did the tank. They had
Mhm.
the Cat Slayer. They had Mumra's tomb, and then they had Tongosaurus or
Was
whatever
that
that thing was.
was that ever released? There's
I don't.
a oh,
I,
there's a really fun website called catslayer.org. I'll link to it in the show notes.
oh,
They
nice.
go and they get into a lot of the unreleased stuff because you had the
There had to be a lot of unreleased stuff because
yeah,
it stopped. The toy line only ran for a couple of years, right? They didn't
yeah,
have a lot.
you had the the Tongosaurus character, which you never want to be called on a date because you know you're not getting a second date, or are
Or Tongue
you?
Lasher. I mean,
Or
they got Tongue Lasher as well.
he was released and everyone loved him.
Yeah.
Um, but I believe there was that creature that's on the site, the Mad Bubbler. That's also a
Right.
part of it.
Right. Yeah. I don't think that was an original line.
A couple of the more obscure characters, like there was a I forgot how many characters got crammed into that show that I just don't remember.
There
Um,
were a lot
I,
that didn't get in the original run any toys.
yeah, we didn't like the Berserkers didn't get. I don't think all of the Berserkers were. I mean, no, I'm sorry. The Berserkers were
The
the
Berserkers were
Lunatics. I don't think all of their toys were
no.
made. I think they focus a lot more on I guess kind of in order of appearance and frequency
Yeah.
within the show because we did get I want to say we got all of the Berserkers, uh, Hammerhead, Ram Bam, Crusher.
Yeah,
There's like
Crusher and Top Spinner.
yes, so we got them. I always wanted those, and this is just the
Was Driller?
anthro
What? No, Driller
preference.
wasn't one of them. He was a dumb toy, but
Yeah, Driller was part of the. I think they were called Rampagers,
yeah, something
Rampagers.
like that.
He appears in the new series and looks really cool, and I really wish that they would have gotten around to that. But yeah, they in the initial run we got the main characters, we got the Berserkers. They were starting to hit I think more of the actually oh no, I'm sorry. Did the Lunatics get any figures? Did any of them come out? I don't remember offhand if any of the Lunatics
I
got
don't
figures.
remember
I
offhand.
get I'm thrown off because Super 7 has done Chiller, I'm sorry, Chilla,
All
and
of
I
the
think
obscure characters.
Alluro.
Yeah,
So
I don't think they
they're
were in the original run.
I don't think so. 'Cause they're starting to. Like we'll get them kind of eventually. And I guess that might be part of the frustration and concern because Thundercats is also one of those lines where the first run may have been the most successful because we got you had your core cast, you got everyone, including
Mhm.
Snarf. And then we
Right.
got and then later on we got Linkso, we got Pumira, we got Bengali,
Hmm.
and then attempts to kind of revamp it never quite managed to finish everyone out.
No, and then
Um,
they had two versions of some like Retaro had two versions, right?
were there
Like
two versions of Ratar?
yeah, there was like a silver and
Mhm.
a gold, and then they did Mumra with his dog and Lion-O with Snarf,
You
and
know what?
then they had Tiger with the kids, Wily Kid
Mhm.
and Wily Cat.
Yeah.
They had another version of them. They come with the kids.
You know what's funny? Well, thinking back on the line, this was one of those few series where there were not a lot of yeah, a lot of lines kind of pack it out, you doing repaints and doing your special edition versions of. And Thundercats never really had that. Like we you had like your Tiger Force for GI Joe or
Right.
your Night Force or whatever. And Thundercats never got like we never got like Stealth Attack Lion-O. We never got
No.
like Fire Fist Panthro, although that would be awesome. Uh we but like
Panthro was everybody's favorite because he was the
yeah.
cool leader. He had that smooth voice.
Look,
He used nunchucks.
when you're when you're voiced by Grandpa Huxtable, you can't help but be the coolest guy in the room. Oh,
Yeah.
speaking of which, and I don't know if this has been just forgotten over in the sands of time, but I remember in the early 2000s, no, earlier, I want to say like the late 90s when strange gems of things started popping up on the internet. Uh
And they
have
were
you
truly outrageous.
they have you heard the Thundercat outtakes?
No.
Oh, I will send it to you right after we're done. So there is a series of recordings. And, voice actors fool around all the time. There's all these great stories,
Right.
especially
Right.
with people like Peter Cullen, and they talk about all kinds of weird stuff they would do just to amuse themselves, probably between takes or just to goof around while they're doing the takes. There is a collection of the voice actors for Thundercats just having a good time and being inappropriate and being hilarious. Um, it's part of where it's where the Samoflange joke comes from. Uh, the
Hmm.
it's Panthro or Grandpa Huxtable, and he's like, "Where is that Samoflange?" And you hear the voice actor for for Lino. He's like, "The F is a Samoflange," and and they lose it, and it's hilarious. I had to send it to you. It's
Yeah. Yeah. I
fantastic.
want to check it out.
Um,
I've heard recordings of old cartoons like Speed Racer because they're always like, oh, like made to sound very inappropriate, but I haven't heard the Lion-O ones.
yeah, but having listening to voice actors working on a series that you remember and love is fantastic. So did you own any of the original Thundercats line?
Yeah, all of them.
Oh, you had everybody.
We were really into Thundercats when they came out. Now,
Mhm.
who did the cart? Was it was distributed by Warner Brothers? I mean, it was like a couple other people involved, but I think ultimately maybe Warner Brothers.
You know what? That is a
Anyway,
good question.
you know, the toy company LJN is one that's forgotten about in the
Yeah.
like 80s because they did a lot of big lines. We've already
Yeah.
talked about Dungeons and Dragons, wrestling
Hmm.
figures, and they did the Thundercats. And
Yeah.
we were really like excited about the Thundercats, like I said, because it was the addendum to He-Man, and
Yeah.
it fit, it worked. Like you could put Lion-O on, like you say, like some of the He-Man vehicles and
Hmm.
whatnot, and it kind of worked. And then you had Magic Sword versus Magic Sword. You know,
Hmm.
it was kind of cool. Now going back and rewatching Thundercats when Jared was young, like
Hmm.
when you're a kid, you're like, all right, Lionel's gonna fight, and you just wait. And the opening, oh my god, the opening to that cartoon
The
was
opening is
amazing.
the opening still holds up. It's still
Yeah,
amazing. It's still one of those. Uh, the opening is what drags you in, and then maybe the actual animation itself is not so much, but
right.
still really good.
That scene with Chitara running, and
Uh,
Chitara is an amazing character, and she was drawn in such a way where she looked like a real woman. You know what I
look,
mean?
look, there's a lot of people who experience manhood via Chitara. Uh, she was
Well, you know, she
a
looked like
lot of
mom
first
in the
crushes.
'80s. She had the big hair, and the, you know,
It's a lot of first crushes who are of Chitara.
yeah. But you know, like, but now rewatching it, like the writing of that show
Mhm.
was really, really advanced.
Yeah.
And watching Lionel, and we spoke about this, I think, in the last episode, watching his journey from, you know, being a man child essentially,
Mhm.
uh, you know, when after the space travel, to becoming, you know, a true leader. It follows that sort of King Arthur samurai storyline, and it was really well done. But the toys got us really excited, so
Yeah.
we jumped on that very quickly.
Mhm.
And Mumra was a cool bad guy, like to come out and compete against like the likes of Skeletor,
Mhm.
and Cobra Commander. But he was never portrayed as a doofus. Like
Yeah, he was.
Skeletor and Cobra Commander were just, you know, just kind of wimpy. You know what I mean? They had the
Yeah.
high voice, and they would run and leave their men
Mhm.
behind. And they were just kind of that kind of aggravating little twit kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas Mumra was intimidating and
Uh,
scary. And that transformation was so,
The transformation was fantastic.
yes,
And
amazing to watch. And then Mumra was like a thing of nightmares coming out.
I love that you, yeah, like there was always, they were always legitimately concerned, and they never took him lightly. Like there are moments
Right.
where He-Man was like, "What's Skeletor up to
Right,
now?"
like Skeletor would
And
fight his way through everyone to get to Skeletor, and then you'd
yeah.
just watch Skeletor shoot something from the Havoc staff and then run away. And then, you know, you'd see He-Man run up and go,
And then he might throw over the shoulder toss him, and then that would
"Yep,"
be the end of the
and that's
conflict.
done.
But
Yep.
with Mumrod, it was, yeah, like you didn't really want to go at him, but you had to. He was a relentless force, and I like that certain episodes even started with him in mid plan, like Pumara.
Right, right.
That episode, like he's already captured Chitauri, he's already like gained her trust, already enters the cat's lair. Um, we never got, unfortunately, we never got like an original toy of Pumra, who and I've talked about this on previous episodes. Even though it only happens for one episode, I loved that character. I loved the story behind him,
The
and I
look was
always,
awesome. Yep.
yeah, and that always made me wonder whether or not, because I don't think we didn't get a whole lot of a look at Thundera before they left, so we
Right.
don't know if they were more kind of anthropomorphic looking cat characters or they were more on the human-ish side, and that was kind of my only quibble with Thundercats was that they weren't more cat-like. They were humans with cat abilities and the general look. But I was like, oh,
Right.
but if
It
only
was
they
like the
looked,
island of Dr. Moreau, the movie. That's what they kind of
yeah,
looked
it's
like.
like if only they looked just a little more
Yeah.
cat-like. But they thinking back on the toy line, they hit more than now. Again, now that I'm thinking more about it, they hit a lot of characters. We had your Tuscan warriors,
Hmm.
who I again completely forgot about. You know what I want? I want Burbles. Burbles
Yes, we
were
need
so
what were
much
their
fun.
names? Bert
Burble
and
Bill
Bill
and
and
Burble Bert
Bell, right?
and Burble Bell, and then in the in the 2000 series, they transformed into little wheels and they rolled away. They were adorable. I want those. I don't care if they don't
Those
transform.
pinwheel spiders to do
Yeah,
that.
because and it made sense. And the lore. If you were able to get Thundercat figures, you had enough lore to set up like almost a full society. Because you had the village of the Burbles, you
Hmm.
had Mumra, you had Mumra's tomb, which I actually did own, which was really cool because it came with the mummy version of Mumra, which
Right.
wasn't sold by itself. I remember thinking that was
You got the
super cool. And
decrepit one with the,
yeah,
where he looked like the emperor, kind
yeah,
of with the hood. Yeah.
and he had kind of like he had his own staff that had a kind of like a gross looking ox head on it. It was almost like another version of the Havoc staff, which was a
Right. Yeah. Very
nice
similar.
callback. But I remember that there was that. There was of course the Cat's Lair,
Hmm.
which I did not have but always wanted.
No,
There,
no, we had the tank though. We had the tank.
oh, the Thunder Tank. I
Hmm.
That was another thing that I always wanted but didn't have. And the setup the setup battle between the Thunder Tank and the Fist Pounder in the show, and then to have the toy the Fist Pounder offered was
Yep.
super duper cool.
Right.
Um, I guess now is as good a time as any to kind of reach into the future waves because we that was
Right.
I think they
Here's something I observed early on before
mhm,
becoming a collector and really being able to appreciate the artwork of action figures,
mhm.
is that the Thundercats figures were not nearly as detailed in their sculpting as the mutants were. Like when you look at
Yeah,
the original Scythe figure, you see
yes,
every scale in his eyes, and Mumbar has very ripped muscles, whereas
mhm.
the original Lion-O offer looked kind of, he wasn't cut like he was a big guy, but he, like, his arms weren't defined like Mumra's were.
Yeah. You know
And
what's funny? Most of the
even
detailing was on stuff like
Munkin,
the
and
hair.
yeah, yeah, they yeah, even the hair was, but
Mhm.
but the mutants and Mumra had much more detailed sculpts
Yeah,
than the Thundercats did. I mean, it was an obvious difference,
I wonder if they
which is
had
why
different.
Slice was everybody's favorite.
The original toy for Slide still holds up. Yeah, like you said,
Yeah.
the
The
detailing on him is
detail, you
amazing.
could put that
The
next to a modern day figure
Yeah,
and it matches.
the expression on him is fantastic, and
Yeah,
even
he
like the
almost, you could
limited.
almost put him next to Elkhorn from the
Yeah,
new NECA Dungeons and Dragons line, and
mhm.
it looks okay.
And with a figure that looked that good, the limited articulation he had didn't matter. Like he had the axe swinging kind of
Right. Yeah.
gimmick,
Yeah.
but it didn't. It was well hidden. I'm always impressed by toys that hide that kind of
Right.
articulation well. It was hidden well. One of the spikes on his back was the trigger for it. And he just looked cool. He was
Yeah.
squat. He was solid. Um, I actually
Here's,
did have him. I didn't have any of the
mhm.
other mutants, but I remember them looking really cool when I would see them in stores.
Here's my favorite vintage Thundercat story before we move on, and I hope we're going to skip over Thundercats Roar.
Yeah,
Um,
I will not discuss that. I
Thundercats no. Remember that hashtag Thundercats no.
it
So
To anyone who enjoyed that show, I'm glad you enjoyed that show. I hated it. I
seek help.
despised the appearance of it. I
Mhm.
despised the writing of it. I despised the way that it was put out there and the weird pivot from the showmakers who were like, "Oh, you don't like it? Well, then we don't like you either." And I was like, "That's
Right.
probably not true." I get that there were obnoxious people who were being jerks about it,
Oh,
but
right. Yeah.
like
Same thing would happen when
not the
Teen Titans turned into Teen Titans Go.
not the best way to kind of. And Teen Titans Go, I feel, handled the style shift better.
Right.
Same thing with Rise of the Ninja Turtles. It was a different look. It was a different, not terribly different. They were still silly. They were still
Mhm.
goofy, but also gave us some of the best animated sequences of all time,
Here's
hands
my
down.
here's my
So,
favorite vintage Thundercat story.
mhm,
We're in high school, right?
mhm,
So it's a couple of years after the Thundercats had their run.
mhm,
And we're at Renninger's flea market in Pennsylvania. As you know, I like to make a venture out there at least once a
mhm,
year to all the different flea markets and look. But Renninger's at the time was the spot to
mhm,
go find toys. Like we were into it. And my younger brother walks up to this booth. He's got, I don't know, 5 or 6 Thundercats guys,
mhm,
Rotero, Lion-O, Bumbar, Tiger, I think. Anyway, he's asking like $5 a piece,
mhm.
5 or 6 bucks, maybe 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
You would have had to spend somewhere between 20 and $40 to get all of them.
Mhm,
My younger brother walks up and goes, "How much for the Thundercats?" And the guy says, whatever they were. And my younger brother sits for a minute and this is his negotiating technique. He goes, "How about I give you $5 and I take all of these?" And the guy goes, "Okay."
It's nice when someone realizes that they're not sitting on platinum.
Right. And
Because
Dale was still a kid. Like he was in middle school, in ninth, eighth, and ninth grade.
it's a good way to be. That's how flea markets should work. Like
Right.
now granted, I'm not a fan of undercutting everyone all the time for everything, but there are people who need to understand that you're not sitting on a gold mine. Just let it go.
I feel
Let it
like he
go.
could have, like the vendor could have negotiated up a little bit. Like,
He's like 10 maybe? Maybe you give me 10 for all
but
these
Dale was like,
figures?
"How about this? I give you $5 and I take all of these." Maybe the guy was just impressed that he had moxie.
You got spunk. So, Thundercats unfortunately goes away. It disappears for a few
Yes.
years. It's fondly remembered, and then in 2002, I want to say, along with the revamp of He-Man, we get a new Thundercat show, which was
Right.
amazing.
And you know why? Because Cartoon Network started carrying the reruns. And the numbers of views went crazy when they put the
Yes,
original line on Cartoon Network. Everyone was like, "Yes!"
not gonna
They blew
lie.
them away.
Not gonna lie, when I found out it was on Cartoon Network, I was a little disappointed because this was around the time that they started changing up their lineup and how they were handling shows, and they were
Yep,
moving shows like Justice League Unlimited around, and you couldn't find, so like there was changeover happening,
yep,
which did
yep,
not
yep.
bode well for cartoons on that network. When live action shows started popping up on Cartoon Network, I became concerned, and apparently my fears were justified because unfortunately the show wasn't able to finish. It
Right.
wrapped up real fast, but we did. Bandai took over the license and actually started creating a toy line for it in a way that on its face, I thought was really smart. There was a 4-inch line, there was a 6-inch line, and
Yeah.
then they produced that classic look, which they didn't. Again, the drawback was that the show didn't last long enough for them to complete the toy line,
My
and I
Thundercats are
don't.
like right out there, and I didn't even bring them in.
Too bad. Uh, I can't say enough good things about the relaunch. It was smart. It
Yep.
didn't talk down to its audience. The redesigns. Oh my god, the
The redesigns
redesigns
are
are
cool, and the
fantastic.
classic look, the 6, 7-inch classic ones
Yes,
were amazing. That
it was
Lion-O is my favorite.
it was a smart, and I don't know if maybe it was them being scatterbrained, but I liked that they went in all these different directions to try to kind of hit everyone, because there was that divide between 4-inch and 6-inch collectors. So the
Yep.
4-inch wave that allows you to crank out a pretty decent number of characters. Like there were more
And
characters
vehicles,
available.
and vehicles. They redid
Yeah,
the
so
Thunder Tank. They
yeah,
did all kinds of stuff.
we got a new Thunder Tank. We got the Tower of Omens.
Mhm.
I don't think they were able to do a new Cat's Lair, which was too bad.
Yeah.
But there were characters that were released in the 4-inch line that we never got in the 6-inch wave. Groon, we never got a 6-inch Groon, which is a
I
crime.
know.
And I loved his I didn't like that his rival was now Panthro instead of it being Jaga, but he looked awesome. And his
Yep.
4-inch figure to be 4 inches with the articulation on them was actually
Oh,
really
yeah,
well
they were
done.
really well done.
We got everyone in that. We also got I forgot his name, the secondary story slash prequel story that they were doing in the 2000 line uh was awesome,
Mhm.
explaining that Mumra is a creature from space that is steeped in technology. Even though at first glance, it's Castle Plundar, it's a giant pyramid.
Right,
Well,
right.
that's from way back whenever. But knowing that it was in fact a technological wonder of a spaceship that crashed there, and he had taken over everything. Like he was
Right.
like a galactic warlord essentially that got trapped there. Opens the lore up so in such a cool way, and we
Yeah.
unfortunately never got that in toy form. The one character that I wanted more than anyone else was Pantera, that tall
Yes.
panther
Mhm.
woman character who was
Mm.
super cool.
We were upstate for a wedding,
Mhm,
and I hadn't seen that 4-inch line in any stores.
mhm,
Like, at the time Jared was young, we were still doing our Toys R Us runs. I hadn't
no,
seen them.
mhm,
And then the ladies all went out to do their, wedding stuff.
mhm.
And it kind of left Jared and I by ourselves. So, and we had we're up in Watertown, and
Mhm,
we went to the local mall and got lunch, and then we ended up at a discount store. I forget which one, if it was like a Big Lots or something like that, and
Mhm.
found the entire 4-inch collection
Oh, nice.
on super clearance. We
Mhm.
bought the entire collection twice in
Yeah.
one fell swoop. One for me, one for him. It was spent maybe, I don't know, $60 for for all of it. It was the most amazing find.
I used to watch the show with my nephew. It was
Mhm.
a it was it was a it was a fun like kind of family experience that
Yeah,
they
yeah,
they
yeah.
got into it, and I would explain how this is a revamp of the old series, and bought them the toys. Doing the Forest line also allowed them to do smaller characters like the general mutant grunts. I
Yep.
think I forgot which vehicle it was. There was a bad guy vehicle that came with just a generic uh just
Was
mutant
a
bad
flight
guy.
guy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
which
like
was
a
really
cannon,
cool.
like a ride-on cannon thing. Yeah.
Yes, they got to do a lot more of those types of vehicles, which was nice to see. And it's disappointing that that line kind of fizzled out. Although in the time that it was around, they did manage to
They put out
cover
a
a
lot.
decent number of characters. There's an invisible version of Tigra that popped
Yeah.
up that he came
Yep.
with. I think he came with a different playset. The Tiger character, I forgot his name. He was Captain something, and again, he's from like that prequel section of the show with Mumra and the rest of them, where he was a tiger character, but he had like a flight jacket. He had one eye, and he came with. I think he may have come with a different playset.
Why do the tiger characters always have one eye?
It makes them look cool because they're super cool. Tiger, to his credit, managed to keep both of his eyes, but then
Right.
again, the story behind that they introduced in this show just made you want to get the toys more. The
Yep.
redesign of him, the general look, the fact that they were stepbrothers. Because as a kid, I loved Tigra more than anyone else on the show, and I thought that he should have been leader. Always kind of hoped that they would have made the decision halfway through to wipe Lion-O out. Someone's got to take
Right.
over. Panther would rather tinker with the Thunder Tank and be like the weapons master. He's too busy for that kind of thing, so it falls to Tigra. That dynamic in the 2000 show
Mhm.
was great. Um, but that toy line, I really wish they had been able to finish it out. I think we got 6-inch versions of Lion-O. Chitara was hard to find. Chitara and
Yeah.
Tigra, I
I
think,
never
came
saw.
out towards the end,
Yeah,
and they managed to get to the that golden lion armor.
they
It
did. Yep.
was it was not super articulated, but it looked really cool. Um, Speaking of cool things, I'm thinking part two for next week,
You're
because
always thinking part two.
there's still a lot of stuff to do. Let us, listeners and watchers, let us know. Get a hold of us at Two Guys Talking Toys on Twitter. That's the number 2, no G after the talking. Same thing for the Gmail. If you're enjoying the videos, like and subscribe, and tell your friends. Tell all of Third Earth. Take care, everybody.